Hello, and welcome to the Key to Software Implementation Success webinar. I'm Peggy Smedley, Editorial Director of Constructech Magazine, fierce advocate for construction. Constructech leads contractors and builders in today's digital transformation by leveraging information and emerging technologies, connected equipment, and must-have tools for the job site. To learn more about Constructech, please visit constructech.com. We're pretty excited that you could join us today. So now let me start by introducing our exciting panelists. First, we have Andrea Wright, who's the CEO of CTP Solutions, LLC. Andrea founded her company in April of 2018 to help companies, teams, and individuals clear obstacles and move their goals and aspirations forward. She has more than 20 years of experience in the AEC industry. CTP Solutions leverages unique management, coaching, training, and strategic experience to help align goals with reality and create change. Next, we have Jim Lapointe, President of Colden Company, Inc. Jim founded his company in May 2003 with the idea of providing excellent customer service while helping organizations effectively use technology. His company focuses heavily on contact space, helping businesses in the building trades to embrace technology that will benefit their businesses. And then we also have Lynn Coffey, owner of ProCon Solutions, LLC. Lynn founded her company in September of 2012 with a vision of assisting construction companies through the tedious task of implementing construction accounting software. With more than 25 years working in the construction industry, Lynn has a passion to raise technology awareness in the contact community. Now, all three of our panelists today, CTP Solutions, Colden Company, and ProCon Solutions, have come together to form The Key. The mission is to inspire innovation through collaboration. Now, if you think about it, like-minded professionals are working to enhance software performance for the construction and building trades. Members hold expertise in different areas, including change management, technology, and implementation planning and design. These various yet connected skills can help propel your software implementation success. Now let's take a look at the agenda. First, get a really clear and make a plan. Second, collaborate with your technology team. And of course, third, prepare to go shopping. So if you've looked at all three of these things, I think we're going to let Andrea take it away. Andrea?
Hello, everyone. I'm Andrea. I'm really excited to be here today. You know, one of my favorite aspects of my business is to work with my clients to cut through the noise, get focused, and create solutions that work. So today, I'm going to talk about getting really clear as you begin your journey to implement new software. I'm going to go from the philosophy all the way to your commitment. And I think Benjamin Franklin said it best: by failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. So let's make sure you don't fail and that you are set up for success. My philosophy when it comes to implementing software is to keep it simple, from the software itself to defining your processes and then the data that you may convert. So it's important to maintain the integrity of the software when you implement. You're going to use the software as it was intended to be used. If you try to make changes to the software before you truly understand how to use its features and its functionalities, you're going to ruin it before you start. So you don't want to even consider customizations until probably 6 months or more after go live, meaning, you know, the date that everybody starts using the software. Because many times you're going to find that the things you thought were necessary actually become obsolete, and it's very expensive and often impossible to undo our customizations. When it comes to our processes, the new software system is the best time to update processes and become more efficient and effective in your day-to-day operations. So update your processes to complement the software. Don't customize the software to adapt to your processes. I can't stress enough how important that is to try not to morph that software to fit them. Just change your processes so the software can be used as it was meant to be. And as you're doing your due diligence, if you hear references that are upset with your software, I want you to be sure to ask the question if they customized it before they started using it. And what you're often going to find is that is the case. And then finally with data, less is more. So convert only what is necessary and consider hiring an expert through that journey. So before we select the software or a group of software products, you need to get really clear about why you're making the change. So let's go over some questions that will help get you started and bring clarity to your project. So the very first question, what are the current issues leading your company to select the new software? Why are you making this change? And then what problems must be solved with the new software? So there's often very specific items that must be resolved once that software is up and running, and you need to make a list of them. And in your due diligence, you're asking these questions, and that's called selection criteria. So based on your answers to the first two questions, you'll start to create a list of need-to-haves and nice-to-haves. Those need-to-haves, those are the deal breakers. If the software doesn't have it, it's probably not one you're going to go with. The nice-to-haves, you can kind of weigh your decisions one way or the other. And the things that you're going to think about that you're missing today, maybe do you need operations and accounting to be integrated in order to eliminate the current duplicative entry? Or do you need systems that offer a variety of mobile features? Only you know the answer to these questions, and only you can make that list of criteria. So next question is, what is your expected timeline? From selection to preparing your processes to implementation, training, go live, and after go live support. So as you're thinking about it, you should plan to take 4 to 12 months for the selection process to be complete, then another 6 to 18 months to implement, and another 3 to 6 months for after go live support to your end users. Now, if you need that software to be implemented in a condensed amount of time, you need to be sure that you can make those decisions fast and dedicate the appropriate resources to get it done. Often we say we can do that, but we can't because business has to go on as usual, and it's important during the planning and discovery phase to be realistic and honest with yourselves about what you can and can't take on. Many companies underestimate the resources and the time it takes to implement the new software, and they run into problems meeting their deadlines. Next question, do you have the right budget? A few things to think about. You'll need to account for the software and the implementation costs. If you're converting data, you're going to have some extra costs with that and external resources, and then your internal versus your external resource cost. And finally, what are your current processes? Do you know what they are? And if you don't have them documented, start documenting them now. You'll need a clear starting point when you get into the new software. I want to dive deeper into the resources, making sure the right amount of resources are there for you because they are key in your successful implementation. So you need to make sure you're committing those resources. One person can't successfully implement the new system. You're going to need a team of people in various roles from all over the company to really rethink and restructure how you're going to do business. So as you're identifying who they are, make sure that they have the necessary time and skills. And make sure you're being realistic about what can happen versus what you wish could happen. You're going to have to free up their time because they can't sustain their day jobs plus implement a new software. And finally, seek help if you need it. There are people out there that can help you every step of the way for your implementation, from planning to after go-live support. So get the help. It might seem expensive, but your return on investment for this will be 10 times what you're going to spend. You are now setting up your company for the next 20 years. You don't want to skimp on your plans and resources. Okay. All right, so next is the communication plan. Communication must happen throughout the project because your end users will need to get on board with the changes ahead. It's important to set up communication and demonstrations throughout because each person processes change differently. You will want to offer various ways for them to learn more about the change. This often gets dropped because of time, but the lack of communication can derail new system adoption. So it's important that you know your end users. The use of assessments will help you understand who they are, and it'll help you determine the best types of communication and demonstrations to offer. It's also going to help you diagnose or address specific types of resistance on an individual or a whole company level. As soon as you decide on the new technology, be sure to let your impacted users know that their process will change. There's no need to wait until you have all the answers. Just let them know it's coming, and if you know the approximate date you're going to go live, that's important too. You want to explain the benefits that this is going to have for them. For each role that it affects, be sure to explain how it will simplify their jobs and help them be more productive. And also arrange product demonstrations throughout. And also then accept input. It's really important as you go through. It's very hard to get input, but it's going to help with adoption, and it'll help others see the plan. You might find better ideas that you never thought of, and it might poke holes in things that you thought were already perfect. And then the last thing is make sure that you're communicating what remains the same. It's amazing how much this can put people at ease to know that certain things are the same and don't think it's obvious. So be sure to tell them. And lastly, let's talk about commitment. Once you have a plan in place, you must commit to make it happen. So commit to the plan. Creating a plan and sticking with it is important. Don't get a case of the might as well and keep adding. There will be time for that later. Commit to your resources. It's important to keep your designated internal and external resources dedicated to the project. Be sure to lighten their load and allow them to concentrate on the implementation. Add this to your business plan for the year. It will pay dividends. Remember, there's nothing that derails a project faster and adds unnecessary costs to the bottom line, like pulling resources or adding scope. Also, commit to communicate. The hardest part of any implementation is helping the rest of the company prepare for the changes ahead. A solid communication and change management plan will ensure successful launch and adoption. And then leadership must be on board. So commit to having everybody rowing in the same direction. It was great talking with you guys today. Next, Jim is going to talk about the importance of collaborating with your technology team.
Thank you. As Andrea said, my name is Jim Lapointe with Colden Company. And as you can see from my bio here, I'm going to be looking at things from a little bit different perspective than our other speakers. I'm looking at things from the IT side of things. My time at Colden Company and as a technical services manager for a construction ERP solution, I've been involved in many implementations, and I'm going to share with you some of the successes and some of the ways businesses fail at this. So my second point here is collaborate with your technology team. I have a saying that the IT folks should not be driving the bus, but they need to have a seat on the bus when it comes to ERP implementation. And we've seen businesses make that mistake both ways. One where their IT manager comes and says, hey, we're looking for new software. These are the requirements that our business people have laid out, where they're driving the bus, and that's not where they should be. On the other hand, we've seen business leaders go ahead and evaluate and select software without consulting the IT team at all. And then when the time comes and they say, we're ready to implement this, they find out there was a bunch of details that they weren't aware of that changed the price of the solution and changes the ROI. So make sure your technology team is involved early, make sure they have a seat on the bus, but make sure they're not driving the bus. So I'm going to be looking at technology direction, understanding technology requirements, digging into the technology details, and then I'm going to finish up by talking about integrations and something I call the ERP effect. Okay, so what is your technology direction as a company? Do you know? Does your organization prefer cloud-based solutions to reduce in-house infrastructure costs? Do you prefer software as a service, or is that discouraged at your organization? Have you standardized on Android or iPhone for your mobile platform? These are things that you should know as a company. And what you want to do is look for solutions that fit with that direction that you've already laid out as a company. Now, what I'm not saying is if there's one solution out there that's going to solve all your business needs, to ignore it because it doesn't fit exactly with your technology direction. Definitely not saying that. But what I am saying is that the technology direction that you've laid out, you've done it for a reason, and it should be a consideration in the overall process. Okay, understanding technology requirements. That collaboration with your IT team can really pay off here. Point number one is to ask for recommendations instead of minimum requirements. A lot of software vendors will provide you with minimum requirements that really aren't going to be adequate for your business. So you need to find out, what does that software vendor recommend for a business of your size with your transaction volume, and give you those numbers instead of the minimum requirements. Once you have that, then you need to take a look at your existing infrastructure for compatibility and scalability. Whether or not you're going with a cloud solution or on-premise, it's going to have some effect on your existing infrastructure. And it's important as business leaders that you understand that. So if you're more of a visual person or a visual learner, ask for something like this. This is a network diagram that visually lays out a network here. Ask your IT folks to create one of these for you. And then ask them to create another one. If we go with solution A, what will this look like? You can see here, we're going to add a virtual server here. We're going to need another server here. This one's going to go away. Get it in a visual format because it is important that you understand it as a business leader, not just your IT people. Okay, know the technology details. Whether or not you're going cloud-based or on-premise, it's important to know the details. When we talk cloud, we always hear the question, who owns my data? I'm really less concerned with that, but I am concerned with knowing how to extract your data and what it might cost you if you decide you want to exit a vendor's cloud. Many public cloud vendors like Amazon or Microsoft Azure Cloud don't charge you anything to put data into their cloud, but they do charge you to pull data out. So if you've accumulated a few terabytes of data over the years and then you want to extract that from the cloud, know that there could be costs associated with that. You want to know those things up front. And it's very important to know about backup retention and data security measures, whether or not you're going with the cloud or on-premise solution. There's a common misnomer that by going with a cloud vendor that you're transferring the risk of a data breach to that cloud vendor. And really you're not. If you're putting that data in, it's your data and you're responsible for it, regardless of where it sits. So it's important to know what kind of data security measures and backup retention plans are in place with whichever provider you're using. Now you'll notice here I have a pro tip. It says, check out the National Institute of Standards and Technology's definition of a true cloud. And the reason we're recommending this is what we've seen is a lot of software vendors want to tick the box that says they have a cloud solution. And their solution is not really true cloud. So all cloud solutions are not created equal. It's important to know the technology details. So NIST has laid out a few points here that make up a true cloud solution. Number one, it should be on demand, which means it's available when you want it. It needs to be scalable. So if you want to go from a 4-user license to a 400-user license, you should be able to do that with a click of a button. Now, some vendors will put some servers in their data center or even in their office and call that a cloud solution. If you want to go from 4 users to 400 in that type of scenario, they may have to add additional servers and licenses, and they won't be able to do that on the fly. And that's not truly scalable and not true cloud. With true cloud, you're going to be able to make that jump at the click of a button. The third point is cloud should be widely available, whether or not you want to access it from your phone, tablet, or in the office. It needs to be available. Fourth, it needs to be a measured service. So cloud solutions are sometimes called utility computing. Just like a utility bill or an electric bill, your bill is higher the more you use. And many public cloud solutions work that way as well. The more you use it, whether it's CPU cycles or bandwidth, the more your bill is going to be. Now, some vendors will wrap all those things up into a neat package and charge you per user. That's fine. That's a legitimate way of measuring usage. And finally, shared resources. That means that there's really no single point of failure with the solution. So in that scenario I gave you where a vendor might have some servers in their data center, if their firewall were to go down and that takes the entire solution down, that's not a true cloud solution. So it's important to know those technology details. It's not enough to have the vendor tick a box that says they have a cloud solution. Okay, integrations. Integrations is an ugly word in the ERP space, and it's certainly earned that reputation over the years. You want to evaluate not only the costs of implementing any integration, but you want to know the ongoing support costs as well. You want to look for established integrations. If a software vendor says they don't have an integration for what you're looking for, but they can easily create it, that should make your spidey senses start to tingle. It's never that easy. So you're looking for those established integrations, and then check those references. Call those companies and find out how well is it working. What are the ongoing costs associated with that integration? Every time the vendor has an update, does that require changes to your integration? And who's paying for that? Make sure that your contract is very specific when it comes to this. Okay, wrapping up what I call the ERP effect here. Implementing a new ERP is going to have an effect on your processes, people, and your technology systems as well. So by collaborating with your technology team early, you can reduce those unanticipated expenses. Do that capacity planning ahead of time so that you're getting true numbers and can calculate a true ROI. Okay, I'm going to turn the presentation over now to Lynn Coffey with ProCon Solutions.
Thank you, Jim. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to share a few insights today that I've learned along the way while working as a vendor, as a software consultant for a construction ERP solution, and then next as a customer directing application deployment and usage for 15+ companies. All right, my agenda today, we're going to go over expectations, how to envision your future, searching and vetting stages, visualizing what's next, and finally selecting your software. Expectations. When it comes to expertise, there are several items you should expect from your outside consultant. Have they worked in accounting, construction, or even better, both areas? Have they worked in your vertical? Is their background with a specialty contractor, GC, or heavy highway? These experiences each bring different energies to your implementation. Make sure they understand your business processing requirements. A GC perspective is quite different from a specialty contractor in sheer transaction volumes alone. A specialty contractor also tends to require more detailed financial reporting, whereas a GC does not. Resources who have one type of experience versus the other is very important when deciding on setup needs. It's okay to ask for resumes of the folks you will be working with. How much software experience do your experts, or do you expect the trainers to have? Make sure to ask how long they've either used the software and or worked for the software company. Are you familiar with the availability of third-party consultants? Many times, these resources have worked for companies similar to yours, the software companies themselves, and having done both is an added benefit. When it comes to availability, you'll need to understand that the software company cannot commit resources to you until your contract is signed. Regardless of what you were promised in the sales process, make sure if you are promised a specific set of resources that it is in writing and dependent on the specific date that you sign your contract. That said, it's always best to make sure you have a Plan A and a Plan B set of dates for implementing. We never know what set of circumstances may change the go-live date, and it's best to ensure you are content with 2 time frames. Note that sometimes if the vendor can't meet your plan A, your plan B may mean you need to change your vendor of choice. When it comes to cost, remember, regardless if you expense your costs or capitalize them, they all require a cash outlay. It's okay to ask for payment plan options. You're going to have quite a list of expenditures to finance, including infrastructure, hardware, software, phone plans, mobile device monitoring services, GPS, credit card services, bank financing if automating customer financing applications from the field, consultants, report writers, data conversion specialists, and project managers. Okay, now it's time for us to dream about your future together. Structure. Sit with your team and think about your current company structure and all of the great things to come. Do you intend to grow? Will you branch from residential to commercial or vice versa? Will you move into a new geographical location? Will you be acquiring companies? Take a good look at where you hope to go. Envisioning your future company structure helps you design your general ledger, file maintenance, and define how your financial reports should appear. Look to the future, plan now for how best to grow with your new system. Reporting. Pull your users, managers, field and office personnel. Find out what people need, what system reports and Excel spreadsheets are being used today. Is it possible to consolidate any of the report criteria? Now you'll understand what you can add to your needs and want list. Make sure you understand what will be canned with the system or require customization. Yes, I said the bad word, customization. It's going to be a project reality, more so around reporting for a kickoff and go live versus changing the software. Prepare yourself to know what costs lie ahead of you when developing your budget. Data migration. What the heck does that mean? Well, many systems today allow for document management and have specific data points for you to retrieve files. Are your files organized? If not, what are some of the options you have for bringing them forward to the new system? Well, some of those options range from programming, pointing your software to a shared drive, and our new softwares that can provide the means to access, organize, and retrieve data, as well as migrate to the new system of record. What are data points? Data points are areas throughout the software when processing or looking at file maintenance that allow you to click and open a document and a file within the accounting system. When it comes to bringing these files to a new system, typically images and documents come later after your team has time to get their feet under them. For setting your system up, the norm for data conversion is in areas of file maintenance and history. To keep costs at a bare minimum as well as maximize your startup, you will always need the following as balance forwards: payroll W-2 information, job cost and billing for any open job within the current fiscal year. You should always have a mirror percentage of completion WIP or bonding report presentation at cutover. Service management agreement costs, billing details, and remaining planned maintenance visits, whether it be a contract and or an open work order. Those details need to be brought forward just as important as your job cost WIP. Accounts receivable, payable, agings, and inventory balances. The trial balance information I always recommend this year and last year to allow for comparative financials. Most software companies have imports that allow you to bring each month to the new system with ease. Now it's time to go shopping. You'll prepare a list of questions with required and desired functionality for the vendor to respond to. This should be included when you send a request for proposal invitation. Before you compile the RFP responses, understand what your team deems as an acceptable score. Try and narrow down to 1 or 2 options before demonstrations are scheduled. Research. Ask vendors for referrals. Find as many videos as you can and watch them, and read case studies that you can find on the internet and or from the vendor's website. Make sure to understand the availability of the resources in your company who you expect to attend future demonstrations. Will their availability dictate a different schedule than you originally planned for? Send calendar invites ahead of time to keep people engaged in what's coming next. All right, we're going to visualize and get ahead of things here. We want you to ask your vendors for sample documents. This will help you visualize the process and realize 3 things. Is the vendor organized? Will they be providing your team much guidance along the way? And maybe there's something else you need to prepare for that you haven't already thought of. And now it's time to make a selection. Request a proposal and ensure everything you expected is included. Have a couple people review the proposal separately and then come together to discuss questions and concerns as a team. Notify the winner they are the vendor of choice and understand with them what they plan to execute next. Update the contenders that you've made your final decision. If possible, follow up with a phone call. This will help the vendor understand why and what they can do better in the future. You never know if your paths will cross again. Keep the relationship friendly and professional. Some of my oldest contacts are people I've met while selecting software, and to this day we help each other network. Collaborating brings many unforeseen benefits. In summary, we believe coming together is a beginning, keeping together is progress, and working together is success.
Well, I think you have to admit that Andrea and Jim and Lynn, you guys did a great job of explaining what's going on in this marketplace and helping the industry really understand. So Andrea Wright, CEO of CTP Solutions LLC, that was amazing. Jim Lapointe, President of Colden Company Inc., and Lynn Coffey, owner of ProCon Solutions. Thank you so much for that informative webinar today. And Lynn, I'd love for you to tell future events that you guys are going to be at, including Constructech Tech Day, because I think that's really informative. And I know also that now our listeners who are here have lots of questions, right, Jim?
Yes, we do. Lynn, do you want to mention the Constructech Day first, and then we'll get to questions?
Absolutely. We will be attending Constructech's Technology Day, August 21st and 22nd in Chicago this year. This will be my 3rd year attending the event. And let me tell you, these 2 days bring leading construction technology visionaries and peers together. The speakers provide insight and development into not only yourself, but also learning tools to take away and introduce to your staff. The networking opportunities are endless, and we look forward to meeting those of you in person who will be able to attend this year. You can visit the link above for more details on what the conference offers, or email any one of us, and we can send you that info as well.
Great, thank you very much. So we do have a couple of questions that came in through the chat here. The first one is, how do you handle a change-adverse employee?
Jim, this is Andrea. I'll take that one. That is a great question. So whenever we have a implementation of software or any sort of change going on in our company, we're going to have some people that are adverse to it. So one is understanding, well, who that person is. So if we have assessments on our people, we can really hone in with a very specific way to address it. But if not, we can be more holistic. Oftentimes, people don't understand why the change is happening, and this is probably one of the widest issues. So if you can take the time to explain, why is this happening? What's in it for them? What the big plan is? A lot of people have an easier time adopting. Sometimes we think that people are change adverse. They're really not adverse, but they're okay with making change that makes perfectly good sense. So we need to find out, well, how can we help you understand what will make good sense to you, and then help them, move on their journey of that change.
Okay, thank you very much. Second question is addressed to Lynn specifically here. It says that you mentioned mobile device monitoring. Can you expand on that, Lynn?
Sure, I can. So there's a couple areas that folks need to think about, especially when you move to a mobile technology, and that is who is going to manage those devices for you and what is on those devices. Who owns those devices? Are they company owned, or are they owned by the employee, whether they be phones or iPads, whichever? You really need to learn about what you can and you can't do between what you own and what somebody else does. And I'm going to send this back over to you, Jim, because I know that you've got some experience in that area.
Yes. One of the things we do at Colden here is we do deploy what we call mobile device management software. Basically what it is, it's software that would go onto the phones to allow you as a business to retain some type of control over that phone. So you can do things like mandate security. You can insist on PIN codes. So if a tech leaves their phone in their truck and it gets stolen, that the bad guys can't get into it without the PIN. You can do things like push applications and push updates. So if your vendor's app updates, rather than trying to coordinate loading that on 30 different phones, you use the MDM software to push out that update to all of those phones. So it gets it done in one fell swoop instead of trying to coordinate 30 different phones individually. You can restrict use on the phone. So if you don't want your techs out there playing Angry Birds when they're in their truck, you can restrict that type of thing. And you can also see data usage, which is really where it's going to pay for itself. So you can look at your numbers and say, why is Larry using 8 times more data than everybody else on their phones? And cut those things off at the pass and really allow you as a business to have greater insight and management over to the mobile phones. Okay, those were the only questions that came in. Any other questions out there?
Hey, Jim, can I throw out a question to all of you?
Absolutely.
I'd love for the three of you to help everyone understand we are in a skill shortage right now. And it would really be wondering, how can the older generation that's there, that has this wealth of knowledge that we talk about, before they retire, these baby boomers that have all of this knowledge, how do we encourage them to actually pass some of that on to the younger generation that's coming in and share some of it? We say that some of it has to come from education, but we know this younger generation doesn't want to go to school. But there is, in construction, there's still a lot of knowledge that can be passed down. How do you encourage this older generation that understands the way things, whether it's ERP, we say, some of that has to be school, but it's not. There's a great opportunity to pass that in-office knowledge, so to speak, that you just know the way things are. How do you encourage that passing on of knowledge?
Jim, I can start that. Or Andrea,
go ahead, Lynn.
Well, I was just going to say, when I have that arise, that comment come up, and it does often, it comes down to the leadership. The leadership has to have a succession plan in place for these employees. And often what happens is these senior field people or project managers are in a position that they need them in the field and they're billable. So they have to find a way to change that. And in order to do that, they also need to bring on some people as apprentices and perhaps have them be assistant project managers and such and start working with them in the field. So it really comes down to how much time you can allow for that field, senior field rep or supervisor or project manager. Are you going to expect 40 hours out of them a week, or are you going to expect 25 hours out of them the week and let them coach the new employee that's going to follow them in that succession plan? That's really where there has to be another set of investment that most people don't think about.
Lynn, and I can add on that. One of the ways I've seen some successful companies working with bridging the gap and the stereotypes of one generation versus another generation is creating some partnership programs, or you can call it reverse mentoring or mentoring, however you want to shake it, but pairing up, a younger employee with one of your older employees and creating a platform for them to communicate, whether you're giving them, certain topics to discuss, but ultimately what you're doing is you're creating a relationship that over time, these people will start to migrate towards each other, and it will just naturally happen once that relationship is made. So I've seen it done in reverse mentoring programs, mentoring, like I said, but it's really creating a little more formalized approach to helping build those relationships.
Great, thank you. We do have another question here that's directed to me.
Good.
It says, would multiple new point solutions tied together with APIs require the same hardware capacity as a fully integrated solution with one database? That's directed to me. The short answer to that is not necessarily no. In many cases, you may need additional resources and additional servers, as an example, to tie in third-party solutions, and whereas if you have one integrated solution, generally that's going to have a lower hardware capacity requirement in general. Third-party systems might give you the functionality you need, and I'm not discouraging that if that's what solves the business problem, but be prepared for some extra hardware spend if that's the case. And I'm sorry, Peggy, I think I cut you off there.
No, I was just going to ask one other question, but it sounds like you we're running out of time. I was just going to throw out one more question, but it sounds like we're nearing the end.
Okay, yeah, let's go ahead and wrap up. We want to thank everybody for attending today, and we appreciate everybody taking time out of their busy schedules. And our contact information is on the screen here. If you have questions for any one of us, please feel free to reach out to us at any time. Thanks, everybody.